Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Daniel Vnukowski, and I'm the Artistic Director of the Collingwood Summer Music Festival. Our mission is to bring the world's finest musicians to Collingwood each summer while supporting our local youth, giving them opportunities to grow musically and artistically each summer. Today, we are led on a very special journey with three generations of artistry. My guests include the celebrated historian and poet, Dr. Duke Redbird, the violin virtuoso, Mayumi Seiler, and a local pianist, Jaden Benabdeslam. Before we start today, I would like to acknowledge and express our gratitude and appreciation for the ability to work on land that is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat peoples, as we continue to live side by side in the harmonious spirit of recognition and reconciliation. And all great musical journeys begin with a prelude. So let's head over to the piano and hear a little Rachmaninoff, a kind of ode to the flavors of spring, perhaps best reflected by a quote by the Austrian composer and conductor Gustav Mahler. Spring won't let me stay in this house any longer. I must get out and breathe the air deeply again. That was Rachmaninoff, Prelude, Opus 32, number 5. I'd like to take a moment, as promised, to introduce what's exciting and happening this summer in Collingwood. We've decided to partner with a professional film crew and a sound engineer, a retired sound engineer from CBC Radio 2. And now we've gone one step further and are setting up a drive-in just outside our beautiful church auditorium in the spacious parking lot. To begin, $10 from every drive-in ticket will be going toward charity, the Unison Benevolent Fund, located in Toronto, which helps all musicians of all genres alleviate some of the hardships they've experienced during this difficult year. Our concerts will continue as planned at New Life Church, but will be projected onto a beautiful screen, 3 stories high and 40 feet wide. In the light of this beautiful 20,000 projector moving onto the projecting all the performances onto the screen, we can have up to 200 cars right there and then looking at the concerts as they take place in the acoustically sound environment of New Life Church. We look forward to welcoming you there. And we are now 85% fully funded, thanks to wonderful support in the form of grants and numerous donors and sponsors. We are now ready to make the most of this summer. And here's how it's going to work. Upon arrival, 7:30 on concert nights, we open up the gates, we scan your code, the QR code, and parking attendants help you position your car for an optimal viewing angle. Arrival is basically first come, first serve. You'll be given an FM radio channel that you can use to tune in to your car radio and hear the sound quality with high fidelity stereo. And for each performance evening, artists will be outdoors in the parking lot to kick off the evening event just before the sun goes down, when they'll return into the auditorium to do their performances. Indoors, we'll have an 8-camera crew, sound engineer, and outdoors, we'll have a 20,000 lumen projector. A little bit of perks. Anyone who donates $500 and up will receive a free digital pass as well as a free virtual ticket that they can pass on to their friend and family members. We're also inviting businesses to advertise in our program booklet, starting at only $250 for an ad. Another event next month, June, we're going to do an event together with R.H. Thompson, the noted Canadian television, film, and stage actor. This will be around June 16th. The date is still yet to be confirmed, but go ahead and mark your calendars. With a career spanning 5 decades, he remains a regular presence on the Canadian movie screens and television. And just recently, he received numerous awards for his contribution to the arts and for war veterans. In 2018, the Canadian Screen Award for Best Supporting Actor in Drama Anne with an E. And before we welcome our first guest, I want to take a special note. As the Collingwood Summer Music Festival grows over the years, we look forward to hosting our very own concert hall. And I wanted to mention CACE, C-A-C-E, which is currently working hard and awaiting the results of the feasibility study, which is in partnership with Nordicity. They are looking forward to a positive report and the recommendation of Collingwood getting a 600-seat theater for the region that would include rooms for dance and music, training in the arts and culture. The campaign for fundraising may already begin as soon as September, October. I urge everyone to visit CASE's website and register to learn more about this very exciting initiative. And now, I welcome our first guest, Jaden Benabdeslam. They call it playing the piano for a reason. And for many of the wonderful mentors, colleagues, and musicians that I've worked with, many have retained a kind of childlike curiosity toward the instrument, always in a state of wonder, serenity, and probative thought. What I love about Jaden's story is that we have in our community a young budding musician who only took up the piano in the last 18 months. And already she is playing works that normally take 4 to 5 years to achieve at the Royal Conservatory of Music level. And furthermore, she's agreed to play Tchaikovsky's Seasons at our festival this summer, July 12th. Our paths crossed in 2018 when I heard her at the Songbird Choir, wonderfully presented by Keiko Yoden-Kipfer and Susan Connolly. And very soon she shifted to regular piano lessons. The last year has been especially tough with virtual piano lessons. But I want to ask our wonderful guest, Jaden, what is it about the piano? What brought you to the piano? And welcome to this show.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vnukowski. I was always kind of interested in the piano since my grandmother used to play it. Um, and I guess what really brought me there was probably with the Songbird Choir um, when Keiko, my teacher, she would play with us. And then I guess in the summer when they had the street pianos out, I was always interested and curious to see what it'd be like to play the piano. And so then my parents surprised me one day with a digital piano at home. So then I decided to take up lessons with Mrs. Keiko Yoden-Kiefer.
Wow. And what is it you like most about practicing? Because for some people, the word practice creates butterflies in their stomach. For some, it's like a laboratory experiment that they dread to go to. And for others, it's a joy. Where do you feel you belong?
Well, I actually kind of like the practicing part because there are different steps on learning a song. First, you have to try to play all the notes correctly, and then you can like kind of edit it um, to emphasize the volume and the phrasing. Um, and I like to see at the end when the song is all completed and after you've worked so hard, what it sounds like. That's the fun
And
part.
I love the way you say fun part, because again, it's called playing the piano. And it seems like you've captured the nuances of your creativity and technique and how the two work together to create a performance. And I wanted to ask you, how has this year been for you? A year of remote learning, both at school and at the piano.
Well, to start with school, I think it's been pretty interesting, and it's good. It's a good learning experience. I've learned a lot with the technology and Zoom, um, and I think it kind of taught the pandemic kind of taught us a lesson um, to slow everything down and to spend time with our family. So I like to think about it in a positive way. And with school now, um, it, it's on Zoom, and the teacher kind of assigns us work, so we submit it through the computer. Um, and it's similar with the piano lessons. We do it all on Zoom, and the only thing I miss is probably not being able to play the duets with my teacher. Um, but other than that, I think it's been pretty interesting.
And I can concur. Your music teacher, Miss Keiko Yoden-Kipfer, I have had the opportunity to play duets with her, and she is absolutely a joy to collaborate with. Wonderful. Tell me, Jaden, how do you feel about performing at the Summer Music Festival this year? Is there anything you wish to tell our audiences who will be watching you this summer?
I kind of have mixed feelings about it because this is one of my first performances in front of people. So, of course, like everyone, I'm a little bit nervous, but I think it's a really good experience and it's a big opportunity. So, I'll be happy to do
Encouraging words.
it.
We heard from Jaden on using the opportunity. Life gives us lemons and we make lemonade.
Yeah.
Jaden, I heard there are some works that you're working on right now. Would you care to play a little bit for us?
Sure. Um, my first song is from one of my exercise books by Alfred, and he actually wrote the song himself. It's called Floating Down the River.
Lovely.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Such pleasing, flowing music to our ears, a true solace from the outside world.
Mhm.
What you have, I believe, a second work as well.
Yes, I do. And actually, it's from the same book, um, and it's called Inspector Beauregard.
Wonderful, contrasting. Thank you, Jaden.
Thank you so much.
That was Jaden Benabdeslam, her first live performance. Thank you so much for joining us. Jaden, it takes a lot of courage, especially after a year of nothing but virtual lessons. And I thank you for having the courage to step in today and play live. And I heard from Keiko, your music teacher, that you are also an avid reader.
Yes,
Is that right?
I'm a big
And
reader.
all right. I reached out to Saunders Book Company and wondered if they could supply a book or two for you for taking the time to be with us today. And they said, no problem. We'll send 20 books as a gift. So I'd like to extend this gift to you, and you'll be having a big package arriving at your doorstep in the next couple days.
Thank you
This
so
is
much.
all thanks to the gracious support of Saunders Book Company, Canada's largest exclusive distributor of print and digital books for schools and public libraries, saundersbook.ca. Thank you, Jaden.
Thank you so much for
I
having me.
absolutely a pleasure. And I also want to extend that thank you to Keiko Yoden Kipfer, because it's a lot of work for local music teachers to try and work within this new technology of Zoom, where we're all a little bit Zoom fatigued at the moment. And she has done incredible work in keeping her students in shape and also continuing to serve as organist for All Saints Anglican Church. Keiko hails from Osaka, and on that key phrase, Osaka, Japan, I welcome our next guest, Mayumi Seiler. Mayumi Seiler performed in 2019 at our festival in not one, but two of our events, both helping us bring the orchestra together in our inaugural event, and then in a wonderfully received chamber music event entitled Beethoven's Best. And we cannot wait to welcome her again this summer, where she will play with pianist Angela Park and the electric cellist, Cree cellist, Chris Dirksen. Mayumi Seiler is a renowned Canadian-Austrian violinist who comes of Japanese-German heritage and grew up or spent a large portion of her life in Austria. So Mayumi, we have quite a bit in common. First off, I know just one phrase in Japanese, watashi no namae wa Daniel desu, and it stops there. But I spent also a great deal of my life, in fact, the last 10 years in Austria. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your upbringing in Austria and how that's affected your professional years as a student of the Mozarteum University and as someone who eventually founded Via Salzburg in Toronto, where you were artistic director for many years. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Daniel. That knowing, telling the Japanese people what your name is a very important sentence to learn. So congratulations to that. Yes, I moved from Japan when I was 6. And my father, who was German and a pianist, my mother was Japanese and also a pianist, and they met in Juilliard. They started off in Japan and then moved the 4 girls to Salzburg. And I remember the very first apartment that we were renting was literally next door to Mozart's birth house. It was on the 4th floor, and it was this really sort of tight staircase, and the smell, and it was all stone, really thick. And you know, I just grew up thinking it was fairly normal, the fact that people were introduced to instruments at a young age, that you got, when, you know, the taxi driver knew Mozart's, you know, magic flute, he knew who was conducting next week in the festival. Our field trip at elementary school was literally to the Ingmar Bergman's, was, I think, was the Magic Flute, that beautiful movie. So it was, I was surrounded by it, and I actually think that I thought that the whole world was like that. I mean, they think that they're in the center of the world as well, don't get me wrong. And then I had to get out of there to find out, oh, there's lots of other centers in this world and lots of other things to be learned. But I think from the point of music, yes, the Mozarteum was a very important influence for me. I did study there with really good teachers. I ended up being a professor there as well. And now I've been in Toronto and based in Toronto for a while. And yeah, that's why I called it Via Salzburg. It no longer exists, but it was many years of collaborating with international artists and trying to bring them here rather than me having to go and play with them somewhere else.
Right, and on July 15th, which is my birthday, by the way, you're bringing me my greatest birthday gift. We're going to hear 2 majestic sonatas, each of which have a Austrian connection. The Violin Sonata in B flat, Churchill 454 by Mozart, of course, who was born in Salzburg, and Brahms, who spent so much of his late life in Vienna, Austria, where he wrote also, among other works, his wonderful waltzes. And the Violin Sonata A Major, Opus 100, lovely, lovely work, as well as several commissioned arrangements by Chris Dirksen. So I understand we're going to increase the temperature a notch, and we're going to give this name the Powerhouse Trio. And for me, Mayumi, you're always going to be wild, unpredictable. And I want to know why you came up with the name Powerhouse.
Well, I think it's a trio. There are 3 women who are all very strong in their own rights. I think we're playing music, which is extremely strong. Each piece is very strong. So there are no fillers. You know, sometimes you have a content, you have a little here and a little bit of there, and then you have the big columns on the outside. But no, this is kind of all columns. It's a big house. Yeah, it's quite a good description, wasn't it? Yeah.
Powerhouse trio. I love it. Now, I can't help noticing just on top of your head, there's a little violin that perhaps you grew up on. And here, reading through your bio, you've had some very impressive violins to work with, the Guadagnini and Stradivarius, which I believe you are in ownership now, a 1684 Crowell Stradivarius. Only 650 Strads continue to exist in the world, and many of them are out of reach and in the hands of private collectors. I was wondering if I could get you to maybe play a little bit, just a note or two on a Strad. Now, we realize we are on Zoom, which does degrade the sound quality somewhat, but it is a Strad. Can we convince you?
Yes, well, two things. First of all, I don't own it. I am playing on it. I have the honor of playing on an instrument that an investor has kindly lent to me for my use. He's not a musician. It's a good business decision because instruments values do go up. And I'm happy to play you a few notes, but I have to warn you, I'm looking after my daughter's dog. And every time I even play one note, she starts singing along. So it sounds like howling, but she actually is singing. So I can do it, but I will promise you from the first or two notes, she will start singing. So I'll give it
a duet. Lovely, a duet.
Puts my head all the way up. She's already looking at me. I'm done.
How you can remain so collected and cool while playing the most gorgeous tune and that accompaniment with that dog. Wow. What a duet. Your dog is hired. We welcome him at our shows this July. What a surprise. We were not expecting that. Thank you, Mayumi.
Good ears for good quality of instruments, I think.
He does have a very well-trained ear. Wow.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayumi. And we look forward to July 15th for the Powerhouse Trio. And now let's hear some more Johann Sebastian Bach. This is the A minor violin concerto, movement 3, Allegro assai. Mayumi Seiler at the violin, performing on a Guadagnini. In 2019, we learned about the Underground Railroad with a stirring journey and performance by Maple Leaf Award blues singer Diana Brightwaite and her husband Chris Whiteley, a married duo that showed us the harrowing journeys of escape by an enslaved people from the South with the help of ordinary people, farmers, business owners, literally happening in what we call today our backyard. The last terminus of the Underground Railroad was in nearby Owen Sound. Today, I am very proud to welcome a very special guest who grew up in another area, just an hour and a half away from Collingwood. And that's the Saugeen First Nations Reserve, an Ojibwe First Nation band located across the Saugeen River in the Bruce Peninsula. He's joining us today with a very special message and a history that extends well over 30,000 years. And that, of course, is none other than Dr. Duke Redbird. Dr. Duke Redbird, welcome. As an elder, we have put you at the very end of this show. You are the visionary behind Collingwood's Awen Gathering Place, commissioned by the town of Collingwood, located in Harborside Park. It's a very spiritual place. I always have shivered down my spine when I visit it. It radiates with warmth and beauty. And I would love to hear more about your inspiration behind this immense sculpture from its initial idea to its realization.
Well, thank you for inviting me tonight. I just want to bring greetings from where I live now in Toronto, and to welcome everyone that's watching tonight. I was born at the Saugeen First Nation, but as a result of a fire when I was just a baby, I grew up in a series of foster homes. So I didn't have a childhood at Saugeen, but I since those days been reunited with my family, and my relatives all still live at Saugeen, and it's wonderful that you've invited me along, and I can bring greetings as an elder, 82 years young.
Would never guess.
From the on behalf of the Saugeen First Nation, and it's wonderful to be here. I've been a guest of Collingwood a number of times. Always enjoyed the hospitality that is so freely given by the residents and citizens of the Collingwood area. And I had the privilege of meeting with the town council under the invitation of the Dean Culver, who was at that time, he was the project lead for the Collingwood at
And Gathering Place?
the park and the gathering place. So it all started with a walk in a field with Dean on a very cold winter day, and we were looking out across the bay, and he told me a little bit about um, the park, what the town had in mind to have a park, and in the conversation, I mentioned that I could imagine before uh, the settlers came, this was a great forest, and there were, and I explained to him how we got our 7 grandfather teachings from the food forest, as we called the forest was our supermarket. That's where we went to get much of our gathering food, and I explained that the old trees were the trees that protected all the other plants and smaller trees and bushes, and that we learned wisdom from those old trees, and I explained that the second canopy of trees in a food forest are the fruit trees, and they are often fragile in the sense that uh, they they uh, they aren't as strong as the great oak trees and the walnut trees, uh, but they do survive difficult winters and droughts and so on. And at harvest time, they always give us fruit, and so uh, we learn courage from those trees, and then uh, below those fruit trees are all the berry bushes, the blueberries, the raspberries, the thimbleberries, the bearberries, you name it. And and what we learned from the berries is that they self-propagate and self-fertilize, and they live with each other, and they are all of different textures, different tastes, different colors, but they all cooperate and live with one another, and we learn respect from those berry bushes. And then, of course, uh, below the berry bushes, we saw all the food that was uh, just transparently visible, that animals were eating, and we realized that these plants were very honest in their uh, representation of themselves, so that we learned honesty from those plants. And then when we got down on the Mother Earth itself, and we started sorting through the medicines on the carpet of the earth, and saw they separated the poison ivies from the poison oaks, and the toadstools from the mushrooms, and the good berries and strawberries on the ground. I mean, we learned about truth and how to separate that which is good for you from that which may be bad for you. And then, as we dug down into the ground under that carpet of medicines, we found tubers, and we found them by digging them with our hands on our hands and knees, and we learned humility from them. And then we noticed that the ferns and the ivies were crawling through the woods and embracing other plants, and we learned love from them. And when I told that to Dean, he said, my goodness, if we could uh, put a gathering place together and a park that would represent that. And sure enough, a group of indigenous designers from the Brooks McIlroy architect firm, along with the town of Collingwood, and the cooperation of the steelworkers union that came and laid the sod and did. I mean, it was just uh, uh, a gathering, a place of wonderful people volunteering their own time, and there it is. It stands for all to see, and I'm sure that the people of Collingwood have enjoyed the gathering place and continued to do so, and I was so honored and proud to have been invited to participate in that incredible project.
So everything started, as you mentioned, with a walk in the park.
Absolutely.
And it's
In the winter.
amazing in the winter, of course, Collingwood winters. We know Collingwood winters.
Yeah.
The First Nations people, Inuit and Métis, often lived what was called a peripatetic life, nomadic lifestyle of hunting, gathering, long before Aristotle had developed an entire school of thought around the concept, or before, for example, St. Augustine had coined the Latin term solvitur ambulando, where problems could be solved by walking. And I hear in so much of your work these ancestral teachings, the 7 sacred ancestral teachings. And I was wondering if you could perhaps mention a little bit of how they've shaped your lifestyle and your poetry, and how we could all benefit from these teachings today.
Well, the place that I um, sort of bring my version of poetry comes from the idea that indigenous languages themselves are verb-based languages. They're not
Mm,
noun-based, and indigenous languages throughout the Americas uh, had the one thing that was absent in the language was the question why.
mm,
You could say how things happen or what happened, but the answer to the question why didn't occur to ask why when the Mother Earth, provided all the answers to all questions, and there was no reason to speculate on the purpose of creation when it was so evident around you with every sunrise. And so, as a result, these ideas that were so um, uh, much a part of the Western world in terms of who you mentioned, Saint Augustine, and the philosophers like Plato and Socrates and Aristotle and all of them who were trying to answer a why question. And for the indigenous people, the answer was right below their feet. And when we look at the hierarchy of creation, the settlers saw the hierarchy of creation would start with God and then humans, and then animals, and then the plants, and finally Mother Earth or the earth. And the earth and plants and animals were often considered to be profane, and humans were seeking sacredness, which only was evident in its full bloom in the idea of God. But in the indigenous world, creation started with Mother Earth, and she was sacred and still is sacred to us. And second only to Mother Earth in sacredness is the plants that give us oxygen, allow us to breathe, feed us and heal us, and give us visions, access to visions through the plants. And then the animals who have achieved their uh, uh, level of evolutionary ceiling in terms of where they're going. They teach us how to live a happy life, because all nature demands of us is to be born, reproduce, and then be birthed into eternity. And our role on this earth is to leave it in a sustainable condition so that future generations can enjoy the life that we are enjoying ourselves. And the gathering place in Collingwood is representative of those ideas. And they are shared throughout the world when we think of this beautiful blue planet that needs our love. And if the definition of love is when another person's happiness is essential to your own, then let's think of Mother Earth's happiness as essential to the human happiness. And if she's happy, we're happy. And that's the philosophy that brings me my poetry.
Wow. I remember once teaching a masterclass in China, and mother came up to me and asked me, what can I do so that my daughter plays better? I've been pushing her for hours and hours each day, but we seem to have reached a plateau. And I immediately thought of a book written by a sports coach. His name is Timothy Galway, and he wrote a groundbreaking book called The Inner Game of Tennis. And I remember him, one of the quotes in the book was that when we plant a rose seed in the earth, we notice that it is small, but we don't criticize it as rootless or stemless. We just give it water and nourishment. And then it shoots up out of the earth. And once again, we don't condemn it as immature or underdeveloped. We don't criticize buds. We simply stand in wonder and let nature do its course. And when I listen to your poetry, Dr. Redbird, it strikes me right at the core of what it means to be a human, where we are simply one part of the big picture, and we have to work with Mother Nature. And I'm thrilled to welcome you July 14th, where we'll be hearing some of your latest book of poems, together with the Red Sky Ensemble, a very reputable dancing ensemble, and a Native American flautist will be joining us from Saskatchewan. And Dr. Redbird, before I let you go tonight, I recently watched a documentary called The Water Walker by featuring, among other guests, Autumn Peltier. And it's a short documentary, but talks about some of the challenges currently being faced by the Anishinaabe people. Could you maybe talk a little bit about some of the challenges that are happening right next door to us as we speak right now?
Well, the challenges that are affecting the Indigenous people are the same challenges that unfortunately are affecting the entire world right now. The pandemic, for instance, that has isolated us from one another, our capacity and ability to hug one another, to be with one another, that we had to
Uh-oh. Okay, let's wait a couple of minutes. I think we lost Dr. Redbird. Let's see if we get a signal back. The beauty of live.
here we are.
There we go. Welcome back.
Yeah. So
you proved the point right there. We have challenges.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things that we learn from the summer, when the strawberry blooms and the strawberry ripens, and we recognize that we call that the heart berry, and it represents Mother Earth. And the reason the strawberry represents the earth is because the seeds of the strawberry are on the surface of the fruit, not buried inside like other fruits. We are the seeds of Mother Earth. We are small little earths, each one of us, and we have all the capacity of beauty and awe and wonder that our mother has when we engage with nature and with sustainability and with the ecology and with understanding that if we love the Mother Earth the way we love ourselves, and a happy earth means a happy human being.
Thank you, Dr. Redbird. I get chills when I hear your words, the universality of your message, and the striking beauty. thank you so much for being a guest today. We cannot wait to welcome you once again in Collingwood, July 14th. And now, first of all, thank you. First of all, I want to extend a few credits. The movie that was playing in the background is thanks to the permission of Tom Sternad and the Mountain Goat Film Company, who put that together beautifully. We saw, among other things, 450 volunteer workers helping to build the Awen gathering place. The photography also was made possible courtesy by Dave West. And now, thanks to Sultans of String, we get to enjoy a music performance that blends some stunning cinematography with the words of Dr. Duke Redbird. The power of the people is equal to the spirit of the land.